have an issue with anyone that treats other Christians like they're JV Christians. Like whether that's oneness Pentecostals or Pentecostals that think you have to speak in tongues to be saved, and if you don't speak in tongues, you're not truly Christian. You don't truly got the Spirit.
Yeah.
And then they treat people who don't like you're on the JV team, right? Like I think that's not cool.
Yeah.
If someone has a thing that makes them feel closer to Jesus, and it's like I'm not gonna be like that's idol, but if there's anyone that I felt like I could push on that, it would be
Ruslan.
Curious, what are your thoughts on different Christian denominations? Like, what's the word that comes to mind for some of the denominations? I tend to take a very like broad, charitable view of different streams of Christianity, as long as I would see them coloring within the lines of like historical orthodoxy. And even that's like controversial, because if you're Catholic or Orthodox, you're like, it's all or nothing, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas I would say, no, there's a degree of overlap across all the streams of Christianity that have historically held to the same like essential views. So my thought is, as long as they're holding to the essential views, I don't have an issue with how you want to worship. I don't have an issue with secondary issues, is what we would call them. I think God can and does use multiple types of churches, whether that's the Puritans or whether that's, you know, the Catholics or fill in a blank, right? There's been all types of moves by all types of different Christians. Right now, and I'm not saying this is like a flex, but like most of the revival happening right now, or not revival, like missions work right now in parts, uncharted parts of the world that don't have access, is in like Iran, is predominantly Protestants doing that work. And not just Protestants, but like charismatic Protestants, you know? And this is going to sound edgy, but like I think we are more Catholic than the Catholics in that regard, because we actually view that God can use and work and move through Eastern Orthodox and the Catholics and the Charismatics and the Baptists and the Reformed and the, right? We believe that God can be in all. Yeah, so we would look at it in the grand scheme of like capital C church. So when Jesus says, you know, the gates of hell will not prevail against my church, we're seeing it in the grand scheme of church. Now, I know there's going to be some Christians that are like, Catholics aren't saved, and some Christians are going to be like Orthodox or whatever. That's not my position. I think there's diversity, and I think that people have their own access points. I think the value propositions of Catholics and Orthodox is that it's an all or nothing type of approach. Like you got to take it all or nothing. And that makes it harder to sort through your own faith and what is and isn't your own belief. But I think that there is a mass amount of people coming to faith in Jesus right now, specifically in Iran, right? I want to say 10,000 mosques closed down or something crazy, and millions of people are getting baptized.
That's crazy.
You're not starting a Catholic Orthodox church there. That model doesn't really work for what's happening right now. Not that it can't, and not that there won't be a Catholic Orthodox church. And so it's like, what's happening? Well, it's Protestants piping in gospel preaching through radio airwaves into parts of the world that can't get it. Like I want to say this happening in Afghanistan and Pakistan too.
Yeah.
So I think that's amazing. You know, I think that's amazing. And if people want to attend whatever mass makes them feel like they're growing closer to Jesus in their faith, like I'm not going to sit there and tell them they're wrong or they're going to hell. At the same token, I think it's a bummer that you got Orthodox and Catholics who are both claiming to be the one and only true church telling Protestants and treating Protestants like the ugly redheaded stepchild. You know, like,
yeah.
We know you guys are doing some cool stuff, and we know that you guys are kind of crushing it with evangelism and biblical literacy, but you guys don't have a real church or a real communion. It's like, oh, okay. You know, and we're like, yeah, like,
wisdom will be proven right by her children.
Wisdom will be proven right by her children. I'm not necessarily with all of the traditions and the kissing of pictures and icons and idols, but I would never be like, you guys are all idol worshipers and you're in the church of the Babylonian whore church in Revelation. Like some people would, some Protestants would say that about the Catholics. I mean, it's in the comments. And so I think all the infighting is exhausting. I would just say, I think it's ironic that I have an issue with anyone that treats other Christians like they're JV Christians. Like whether that's oneness Pentecostals or Pentecostals that think you have to speak in tongues to be saved, and if you don't speak in tongues, you're not truly Christian. You don't truly got the Spirit.
Yeah.
And then they treat people who don't like you're on the JV team, right? Like I think that's not cool.
Yeah.
I think it's also not cool for them to say that about Protestants and about our communion and about our church. I understand why they say it, but I just go, oh, that's a bump. That sucks you feel that way.
But Ruslan, you had the Voice of Reason and Tammy Peterson on. That must mean that you're pretty close to converting to Catholicism.
Not at all. No, not at all.
And how scheduling works.
And there's a lot of beautiful things, I think, within those faith traditions. I think there's a lot of beautiful things. And there's a lot from a practical worldview we would agree on. I don't think our worldviews are very different. I don't think our views of sin and beauty and order and structure are different. But you're telling me you're the one and true church. You're telling me you don't go to a real church, bud. Sorry. And it's like, but a lot of the movement right now, the last Great Awakening, America was by a bunch of hippie Jesus people that brought massive revival. And I guess they could pick that apart and be like, yeah, well, what about they couldn't stop the sexual revolution? They couldn't stop this, right? I'm sure you could pick it all apart. Late 60s, Jesus movement, Jesus revolution. If you guys haven't seen that, watch that movie. Greg Laurie. And so I think there's different types of streams and different types of things for different types of people. And I think God can and does work through all of that. And I don't really even care to fight about it. Like I really don't care to fight about it. I think fighting about it is a waste of time right now. I think there's room and place for like good conversations, and in no way do I feel like I am equipped to even have those conversations. I think Voice of Reason is a way better debater than I am. But at the same time, I also knew that if there's anyone I could push, it would be him.
Yeah.
I'm not going to have that conversation with Tammy Peterson. I'm not going to have that conversation with Shane Smith.
Press Tammy on what she thinks about Protestants in the Eucharist.
Right. Or the rosary or whatever.
Does Tammy think the rosary is idol worship?
Right. Like I'm not going to, why would I do that? That's so goofy.
Where's the rosary in Scripture? It's like,
but if someone has a thing that makes them feel closer to Jesus and it's I'm not going to be like, that's idol. Like I'm not going to, but if there's anyone that I felt like I could push on that, it would be the apologetics guy. It would be the guy who just debated James White, and I would say probably had the best debate against James White I've seen.
Really?
By a Catholic, yeah. Uh-huh. I think James White had a good debate with Trent Horn, but I think Voice of Reason did really well against James White. So if there's anyone I could push on that, and I know it's not going to be offended or feel it's not going to get in the way of our friendship. If anything, it's going to make us better friends.
Yeah.
It would be Alex because he likes that, and he's in that space. And to his credit, like he had answers for everything.
Yeah, even if they're wrong.
Even if the answers are wrong, at least you thought these things through. And at least you have things you could point to. And so
he's not like I can't get into the details.
Yeah, it's like talking to a very well versed Calvinist. Like you think Calvinism sounds insane until you sit down with a Calvinist that like has all their ducks in a row and all their I's dotted and their T's crossed, and then you go, oh. And they walk you through their framework. And I go, I disagree with all that, but like you don't believe it for nonsensical reasons. You have order and structure to it, and that makes sense.
Hello.
My views on mainline Protestantism. Well, I mean, most of mainline Protestantism has went pretty in the crazy left.
Are there any ones that are still holding it down?
You know what? That'd be a question for Redeem Zoomer. Like he's really doing a big push to get people back into mainline Protestant churches.
So he's mainline Protestant.
He's mainline Protestant, like hardcore mainline Protestant. And he isn't one of those kind of liberal denominations, but he's trying to like reform it,
Leave, brother.
Well, but see, listen, my thing is like, I don't really care to be an apologist for Protestantism or for neo-evangelicalism or for any of the things, any of the isms. I don't care enough.
Don't care.
But I do think that it's unfruitful and unproductive to mock and scoff at non-denominational churches and rock and roll church and I just think I just don't think it's helpful. Like I don't think it moves the ball forward. I don't think it helps anyone become a Christian. If anything, like someone told me today that there was something funny about like Protestant denominations rebaptizing people. Like if you're born Catholic, you get rebaptized you know what I mean? Like and how kind of like that's kind of goofy, you know?
Protestants do that?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Like if you were baptized as a baby.
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
But
then there's a decision choice too.
Yes.
That Protestants will believe.
And I said, to be fair, we rebaptize everybody. Like it's not like
we'll rebaptize you if you got baptized in our own church.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you feeling like it? You want to get wet today?
Like, you feel like you need another moment. Like, so that's not like Kanye had the line, swear I've been baptized these 3 or 4 times. Now, when I was baptized Armenian apostolic, I didn't feel any pressure to get rebaptized. There was no one that sat me down and was like, you should get rebaptized. It's just, as a adult,
how old were you when you got baptized in Armenian apostolic?
6 or 7 when I was becoming an altar boy.
Did you get Protestant baptized too?
And then I got baptized when I was 18 or 17, 18. Yeah, at the Movement Church. No one told me to get baptized. I was like, and I don't think my baptism was invalid. So that's, that is kind of goofy. That is something that Protestants do that's a little goofy. You got to
multiple baptisms.
Yeah, you got to be multiple baptism, even of Protestants.
Yeah.
Like I got baptized 2 years ago, but I fell off and now I'm back in church. And it's like, you don't need to get baptized again. Like,
I think what's funny? I think I grew up thinking that multiple baptism was normal.
Yeah, that's kind of silly.
That's really funny. Like as I think about it, I vaguely remember being like, "Have you ever been baptized?" And I was like, "Yeah, only once." Like when I was a kid.
Anyway, so I say all that to say,
crazy.
I love everybody, and I really mean that. And I think there's wisdom we can all glean from each other.
Ruslan's are progressive,
and but listen, I respect it. Like I respect Eastern Orthodox and Catholics, like standing 10 toes down. Like, yeah, we love you too, but like you're in a fake church. And you got a fake communion.
Yeah.
Say it with your chest. Like I respect it.
Yeah.
I respect it. I disagree with it, and I think it's goofy, and I think it's wild to say, look at all the ways God is moving through these fake church denominations. I don't know I don't think they use the word fake, but all the ways God is moving. But you're going to treat them like they're on a junior varsity team.
We just need more rules that we can find loopholes to break them.
Chill.
What?
Chill. Don't
It's in the scripture.
Don't do that. Don't do that. All right. Stop this recording. You're wild. Hey, no, but for real, shout out to all the Catholics and Orthodox I've had, and I'm going to keep having them on because I think there's value, and I think we can learn from them, and I'll be on their channels like I did Pints with Aquinas. I'll probably do something on Voice Reason's channel when my book's coming out. And so like props to all of them. And again, I don't have the energy or the capacity to get in the weeds on councils and all this sort of stuff. Like that's great work for like Gavin Ortland. And I don't know if
I'm gonna start a biblical history channel.
Yeah, that's all you.
You know me in Bible history.
There's so much, bro. Like, I'm just happy I read through the Bible. And then I'm like, holy moly, there's how many councils?
Yeah.
And then there's the councils that overturn the councils. Like, there's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot. So I almost just love just talking about it. Like, whether that's from hearing about it from the Catholic perspective, hearing about it from a Gavin Ortland. Me and Wes Huff have had some offline conversations about church history that have been really fruitful. I haven't made it through his podcast on that. So he did a secular podcast where he talks about some stuff that Voice of Reason said he was going to respond to, but neither of us got deep enough in an interview to see what the actual points that Wes laid out. So I'm all for it, and I understand that there's Protestant denominations that baptize babies, and I don't have an issue with them. I understand there's Protestant denominations that look indistinguishable from Catholics. Like if you go to a Lutheran church, it looks almost identical to a Catholic mass.
Indulgences?
Well, indulgences, Voice of Reason said indulgences is like reading your Bible 15 minutes a day is an indulgence,
Crazy.
And so that sounds like Christian living.
It's like a assigned indulgence, though.
Yeah.
So, do they assign 15 minutes of reading?
I don't know how it works.
That sounds like my Christian private school.
All right.
Sounds like seventh period.
Seventh period. All right.
Sounds like, no, y'all kids staying in school and you're reading your Bible.
Yeah. Let's move on. Hopefully that was charitable. Listen, I'm sure there'll be some Catholics or Eastern Orthodox that'll even watch this and pick it apart and be mad.
Ruslan's co-host. Responding to Ruslan's co-host about Catholicism.
Yeah. Jay Dyer's going to have a field day with you. He's going to make fun of your Dickies jacket.
He's like, oh, Dickies jacket. What does he think? He's a mechanic? What is he?
This Ruslan's appeal. Shout out to Jay
Look
Dyer.
at his hat. He's already wearing a wolf.
Shout out to Jay Dyer. Jay Dyer's honestly funny. Like he is hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
I want to have him on. He's just going to want
to.
He's just going to want to argue with me. And I just want to hear his story. Like, I want to know like more about you. And he probably thinks that's super soft and beta, but like I genuinely like the guy.
Is he like alpha male type? Is that like his
I don't know.
bit
I mean, he's definitely I mean, he's definitely, you know, probably further right than we are.
in the argumentative
Yeah,
space?
yeah. Anyway, but props to J Dyer and all those guys. I love all you guys for real. Even when you guys make videos about me, and even when I get it wrong and you rebuke me, and I'm not mad at it. You know. So all right, I'm excited to bring you guys our very first 3-day conference called the Blessed God Summit, happening March 27th, 28th, 29th in Southern California. And at this conference, we'll have your very own Preston Perry.
Me as an evangelist, I've made it up in my mind that I'm not going to leave people with an excuse not to serve Jesus.
Dr. Sean McDowell.
If there's one thing Christians should care about, it's truth.
Our vision with this conference is to equip, empower, and inspire people to do the work of the ministry that God has for them in this time. And at this conference, we'll have your very own Alan Parr and his wife, Jim Parr.
The number one reason, like, you know, people want to get divorced because they want to find someone else who can make them happy. Now, what they don't realize, they're chasing the wind.
John McCrae from What Do You Mean?
What you may be shocked, or you may not be shocked to know, is that the majority of Christians in America, they don't know how to articulate the message of the gospel to non-believers.
Lila Rose.
Love and marriage go together, that sex and marriage go together, that sex can bring life into the world, and that's an amazing thing, that's not a bad thing.
Trizzle Fitness.
Most people fail at dieting because they're just trying to lose weight too fast. What are you in such a rush for?
But where a lot of people get stuck is figuring out what it looks like to walk in that. And so these 3 pillars of our conference will be covering everything from apologetics to family in the home and the marketplace, and how you can lean into those 3 pillars to discover your calling on this side of eternity.